Now, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever time is where you're sitting right now. I'm not sure how is the weather over there, but here in Europe, or at least in Brussels where I'm sitting, is kind of, and we are not used to have airco, so this will be my airco during this session, in case I feel like, I'm falling asleep myself during these conversations. Now, tonight we'll try to make it sharp and crispy. I'm not sure if some of you already been in some of our previous masterclass or webinars around the same topic on relearning to sleep. I will go over with my shortly with my own personal story. Then I'll be uh, we'll be offering some sources of inspirations out of our own shop, out of our project, my own project that I'm running right now around the sleep. And then in the second part, Valbona will join me here. My dear friend Valbona will join me here, and we'll walk you through the functional sides of what means to be in balance and have a good night's sleep. So, without further ado, let's begin. In short, in a nutshell, who I am actually. Well, my career started with in tech as an IT specialist, where I spent 26 years running IT projects in corporates, mainly as freelancer. But alongside this wonderful career that I'm grateful for, I'm not complaining at all. I just had my personal journey as well, in the sense that I was suffering of insomnia for 12 long years. Now, that suffering ended up sometimes in 2024, as I'm going to tell you in a bit, with the second burnout. And in that second burnout, in that transition, I promised myself that if I conquer my own challenge with having insomnia and sleeping, depending on sleeping pills, I need to contribute to some degree to somehow to this space. And therefore, I created at some point in 2024 the naturalsleep.shop, and I became a sleep advocate and trying to raise awareness around these topics among the high achievers, especially in corporates where I was spending my entire life actually. Apart from that, I'm kind of moving the needle on prevention, and I'm developing also franchises for entrepreneurs in task-based nutrition. You know that nutrition is also a big chunk of what it takes to have a good night's sleep. It's having a great impact on us. So I decided to take that journey on as well. I just mentioned that I'm based actually in Brussels currently. And whenever you don't find me in working in some of these projects around natural sleep or developing franchises or having my tech consultancy business, you can find me in some spa or swimming somewhere. But then, how all my story started? How did it all begin? Well, it started with a miscarriage around the period when Michael Jackson, I'm not sure if you remember that, but he was suffering as well of insomnia. And there were some news highlighting that he was put it under anesthesia because it was in such a dramatic situation he could not sleep. And guess what? Hearing that story in the news, I got so inspired in a way that I went to emergency room here in a hospital in Brussels, and I requested them to do the same to me, to put me under anesthesia. Just that the doctors here says, well, madam, here is Belgium, is not US, so the protocol is not, that protocol is not accepted. Instead, what they did, they handed over 2 sleeping pills to me, and they requested me to come in a couple of days. Now that all couple of days went out for like 10 days because I was coming back and forth with the 2 pills that they were trying to figure out the right dosage for me that would work. And after 10 days, they just told me, well, sorry, we cannot support you any longer here. You have to find a specialist. I said, well, great. Now I'm sleep deprived. I'm in all these conditions. Where on earth I'm going to find my sleep specialist? At some point, well, I managed to have a sleep study organized somewhere here in Belgium, which revealed nothing special. Well, not nothing, well, that should scare me or in relation to my insomnia. And luckily, well, it took me some months before I found a specialist, but well, I managed to start my CBTI therapy, which is still the golden standard for addressing insomnia today. For those of you that you're not familiar, it's called cognitive behavior therapy for insomnia. And there is one main thing that I still recall and I remember of what I learned in those sessions. It's called a kind of a strategy or well, a technique, if you want, which is called sleep restriction. And that means that they requested me, they look at my sleep pattern, which was kind of scattered all over the places in my 24-hour cycle. So I was not capable to have clubbed together a number of hours that will give me a restful sensation. Well, and they figure out that my window for sleeping should be between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. Now, do not try that if you don't speak with a specialist, but that's based on my context at that time. They decided I should go always at 3 a.m. To bed. And if I stay awake in bed more than 15 minutes, I will definitely need to change the room because that's, well, they try to help my body, to train my body to associate bed exclusively with sleep. And regardless of if I'm sleeping or not, because usually I was sleeping around 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, sometimes falling asleep, they'll say, well, 7 a.m. you wake up regardless. So keep that schedule for a while. And I had to journal it all day long, well, all the elements that influence my sleep, and in particular the timing when I took medication, the timing when I had to move out of my bed and staying awake. And I had this weekly analysis of my journaling with a specialist in order to identify some sort of triggers of what will be my potential, root cause for the situation I was in. And in parallel, I started this trial error period for a number of months, if not years. It's hard to recall because 12 years already, till we find the right or the correct blend that would support me in a way that will allow me to still be functioning during the day. Because guess what? I still had my jobs. I couldn't quit. I was freelancing. So I had to run the show during the days as well. Now, normally my routine in this period will look something like this at 10 p.m. because people say, well, you need to sleep before 12 a.m., 12 in the evening, before midnight. So I would take my sleeping pills around 10 p.m. and that will shut me down and it will be sufficient kind of till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning when I will be awake most of the times. And what I will do at that time, I'll start meditating, trying to, relax and applying all kind of meditation techniques. And eventually, if I was lucky, I would fall asleep again between 5 and 7 a.m. But all the time I was asking me, well, when you're in that condition, you're not having sufficient sleep and you're running big challenges in your life as well, plus professional, ambitious. What else is available out there? Because, I was kind of refusing that this is the end, this is the only way of living my life in this condition, with this condition. Now, obviously, at the same time, I started to change completely my environment. In a sense, I cover my windows because any light, even today, I need to use my blinders on my blinds on my windows. And if I'm traveling, I'm having my travel kit with me where my blinding curtains are alongside with me. These are easy to travel with type of curtains in case I'm ending up in a hotel which doesn't have that option available. I started regulating my room temperature, staying within the parameters, not too cold, not too warm, reducing noise. I kind of tried to control the air in the room with the humidifiers. I tried all kind of essential oils for aromatherapy. I started to monitoring my sleep with all kind of devices that I could put my hands on. Back then, there were not many of them available. Eye masks, as I said, when I was traveling, and I explored also the smart alarms in order to kind of wake me up gently at the end of my sleep cycle. And that will give me, even if I'm not sleeping enough hours, will still not wake me up in a groggy state. Then change the number of mattresses. They were not available, those one that I'm going to show you in a moment, that we have currently on the market, which are smart mattresses. I didn't have that at the time. change a number of pillows, and use all kind of lamps that will kind of put my brain in or signal my brain that it's a night time, and not really to scare my melatonin to kick in. Now, functional changes, I started having all kind of morning, day, and evening rituals. In the morning, I try to expose my eyes to the sun at least 10 minutes the first thing in the morning. I tried for a number of years the cold showers in the morning, including in the winter. And taking into account that I don't like the cold, I moved out of Romania because I was not supporting there the cold weather in the winter. Still, I kind of push myself out of that comfort zone, and I spent a number of years having every morning a cold shower. What's the purpose of that? Well, that was kind of a way to signal my body that now is the time of the day, now is the time to run the show. And so the cortisol level will kick in, and then we'll have the highest volume of cortisol early morning, and expecting that by the night that will lower the level when the melatonin should kick in by that time. I tried all kind of daily supplements, the night rituals. I changed my diet. I was vegan for a while. I stopped eating after 5. I was eating banana and kiwi and whatever other solutions internet would kind of suggest that would be good for me to sleep. I went for massages, for sauna, for swimming. As I said, I love to do that. Acupuncture, you name it. And I'm not sure how many of you try to Google on how to sleep fast, especially at 3 a.m. I did that many, many times during my 12 years journey. And each time when I kind of went on Google and get the same results, that eventually I tried most of them. Some of them, they worked for a while, some they didn't. I was always questioning myself, what else is available out there that I didn't discover yet, that I'm not aware of, and how can I search for that? Now, I have to tell you that when you're sleep deprived, you go because you're kind of forced to go to search. But let's say, assuming I had one good day that I was kind of, having a sufficient sleep club together of good quality, in that day I will not go to seek for myself for help. Why? Because I had to run my show, right? I had to cope up and to catch up with all my other tasks that I would kind of postpone because of my situation of being sleep deprived. I tried India a couple of times, first in 2011 when I went there for discovering a method of meditation. It was amazing experience because I was kind of being high achiever. I was multitasking all the time. So that Vipassana training that I did 10 days back in India taught me fundamental things like learning about the noble silence, about the fact that absolutely nothing is permanent, and that gave me hope that even my insomnia should fall into that pattern of not being permanent. So that gave me all the time that hope that one day I'm going to overcome that challenge. And then in 2023, just 1 year before I managed myself to get out of that situation, I went there for some Ayurvedic treatments that honestly, if you go there, nothing like that it's allowed to be practiced here in Europe. So pretty strange treatments. However, still didn't manage to get out of my sleeping pills in both situations. Now, I was so desperate at some point that I was even reaching the Harvard Medical School, asking for any unvalidated sleep solutions. After I tried all the hospitals here in Belgium, I reached out to them and I said, well, can you point me out towards some clinical studies? And they were so kind to reply to my email, and they sent me a list of 352 clinical trials. And when I saw that list, I was so hopeful, and I said, yes, one of these ones will help me, figure out a solution for myself. I diligently applied to every single clinical study, and I was so disappointed to be rejected from each one of them. And again, I was questioning myself, now what's next? Where I'm going next? I was so lucky to meet Dr. Gerbert Box at some point, 6 years just before I managed to conquer the challenge. who was becoming not only my therapist, but was my mentor, my spiritual father, if you want, and is still my person to go to, thanks to his wisdom, amazing wisdom. Poor guy, he still is 85 these days, but he's still working because he's kind of, very dedicated to get people out of the sufferings. And I'm so grateful for everything that did to my mindset in the first place, for the lens that put it on my eyes to look from different angle to everything that is happening in my life. Actually, strongly encourage you to find someone like that, in case the devices or any other solution didn't work yet for you. Now, my turning point was in 2024 when these pills that I was relying now for 12 years, and they were kind of serving me to some degree because I was still running my show in my life. I was not laying on the sofa like a tomato. I was still kind of achieving my things, but the sleeping pills just gave up on me. Even when I tripled the dose, I went 5 times over the dose and I still couldn't sleep. Now, what I did, I went back to the doctors. I did a second sleep study. They didn't find anything in particular. They just told me that I'm hyperventilated from extreme anxiety at that time. And they initially gave me a medical leave of 30 days. And I said, yes, my entire life I've never been so long without work. I'm going to fix it out, right? Because each holidays time, I promise myself that I quit the pills. But when you have 10 days off, you cannot afford to sleep only 5 of them and to come back in the office more tired than when you left. So I was kept in that endless loop of not being able to quit. But now I was 30 days on medical leave and I said that's more than enough to fix it. Well, I was pretty naive because it took me actually 4 months before I managed to have my first my first day of 8 hours all together, clubbed together, totally drug free without any sleeping pills. That's 4 months. So it built up gradually over these initially 4 months. And I decided to quit the pills on my own. So the doctors did not advise me. Oh, I'm not sure if you see this, but it's like somebody's calling me. I hope it's not visible on screen. Yeah, probably not. And I was 5 months in totally full-blown burnout and in medical leave at the end. Now, in that transition, what I learned is to slow down. As you probably know, if you're already a high achiever or you have people around you, super ambitious and driving a lot of projects around, one of the, challenges that we all face in that is to learn how to slow down. People says you should slow down, but I don't know because that was my natural, way of behaving for all my entire life. So how can I learn that? But nevertheless, now I had no other choice. I had to slow completely down. And these are the 5 things I would do in that transition before I gradually build up my sleep again. I would shower, I would eat sleep sometimes, not very much, and I would meditate. And if I will not meditate, I will have slowly walks. I will not drive my cars because I could not rely my capabilities in that sense. Well, I was totally sleep deprived in the first night. 4 nights I didn't sleep 1 minute actually when I decided to quit the pills. And then I discovered also another mentor, which is Thich Nhat Hanh. Unfortunately, he's dead at this point, but Dr. Baxter recommended him 2 years before I actually put my hands on his books and on his teachings. When you're not prepared, even if the teachers comes, you cannot listen. As I mentioned at the beginning, overnight I became a sleep advocate, and what is my mission now is to go in corporates and raise awareness around the topic, and mainly around the chronodiversity. We all have these well-being programs in our corporates. We all discuss about diversity, equity, inclusion, and what we address in that concept of DEI is the gender gap, we address the racial gap, we address the sexual acceptance, but I think it's time to address much more differences among us as humans, because these are not just the 3 main differences that we are kind of differentiate ourselves from. So chronodiversity means that we are not all wired the same way. The society decided for us that this is the window when we should sleep, this is the window when we should play, right? And this is the window when we should work. Now, anybody falling out of that window, which is 9 to 5 the job, then you play, you have your personal life, and then you sleep, is kind of, not accepted, or there are some studies showing that morning people, for instance, they are considered more loyal, more committed, more hardworking, they get better projects and so on. While evening persons, which is my type actually, I had hard time to accept that I'm actually an evening person, and everybody was advising me I should sleep before midnight. That's why I took always my sleeping pills at 10 p.m. And well, evening people, they don't get the same chances in the workplace. So one of my mission today is to bring that conversations into the corporates as well. Now, in 2024, while I was facing that transition of myself deciding to quit the pills and go on different journey, I had no much options, but I was not really supported in that sense, because I don't know what is the situation where you're currently based, but in Brussels it took me, for instance, 6 weeks before I found a specialist to support me that was specialized in sleep, in burnout, and speaking English. And in the first 6 weeks, I was basically totally on my own. So I don't advise you to go that way. It's not the right path. It was pretty scary for myself, for my family as well. But that was my context back then. However, I'm happy that today I'm kind of having 2 years. In April, I made 2 years since I'm sleeping completely drug free, and I overcome that challenge. Now, our mission at Natural Sleep is what? Is to facilitate that search. Remember, I told you that each time I was questioning myself, what else could be possible available there that I'm not aware yet? And to be a source of inspiration for anyone in that particular situation. And sleep is a journey. It's not that everybody's will be or is so extreme as I was with my insomnia. We all pass through different stages of that sleep deprivation process. And our mission is also to become your go-to sleep market, if you want. So just get inspired in case you Google a lot and you don't know where to look into, from which angle to tackle your situation. So we will hope we can be that source of inspiration for you. Besides that, today I think is the best period in human history to live with this condition. Why? Because there is plenty of researches going on around the topic, and there are a large amount of solutions available today. Most of them, they are 3 years old, so most of them, they did not exist at the time when I was passing through that journey myself. So yes, please be open to explore whatever is available. And in a moment, I'm going to walk you through kind of the top innovations that we have we provide today to our customers. Now, one of the most often question that people ask me is, well, Dorina, how much shall we sleep? And well, if in nutrition there are these 3 or 4 macronutrients that all of them, they play their role in your nutritional journey, I think these are the kind of top 4 pillars that all of them, they need to be at least on the same page in order to not weaker than the other, in order to have a stable situation in there. Now, specialist says that in terms of quantity, should be between 7 and 9 hours. Frankly, even today, I'm not reaching that level. But if in the past I would be scared and that will increase my anxiety because I'm not making my hours, today I don't have any anxiety if I'm sleeping 6 hours or even less. If this amount of hours that I'm putting together, they are of good quality. I just spoke with somebody this weekend and she was telling me that she's sleeping 8 hours or even 9 hours, but each time when she wakes up, she's not feeling rested. And she did a sleep study for herself, and the sleep study reveals that she's waking up a lot during the night. These micro wakings that sometimes we are not even aware that we are awake. Actually, we have very microseconds awake, but that's sufficient to not give you that restful sense at the end of the night. So quality, extremely important. Then regularity. So we are all kind of, juggling different balls in our lives, and we need to find our own window. Be that window the one that society decided, a bit between, 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., that should be the window. Or find your own window when you say, okay, that's my window when I'm going to sleep, and stick to that window, whatever that is. If you go at 2 a.m. in the morning and you wake up at 8 because you can, then that's your window. Or 10 because you can, that's your window. And keep that window regardless if it is weekend or not. And timing, obviously, I would suggest to be into the dark night because, yeah, I don't think it's pleasant to play football during the 3 a.m. in the morning, right? So that's not the time, the right timing. It's not the natural time. So try to have a little bit of darkness in your window. That will help as well. Now, here is kind of a blueprint that we work with all our customers once they decide to embark with us in a journey of kind of guiding them towards a better quality of their sleep. So what we do first, we check first their physiology, and then we go to the inflammation. We check their inflammation level, and we'll present you some products or some tests in a moment. We look at the gut health test, and eventually we do a sleep study for them. We then kind of have an onboarding process where we check whatever sleep history they have, what kind of solutions they tried in the past, they didn't work, or they worked for a little while and then they gave up. And then if you're a device person like I am, thanks to my tech background, I would love if I would have a device first, that would be my first option. And then we have a plenty of biometric monitors to identify clearly which are our triggers. And now at my time back, I had just these watches and used them during the night, but I will show you in a moment some of the biometric devices that you can use during the day to see which are your triggers. Now, if you travel, there are smart mattresses that you can travel along with a low frequency vibration, noise solutions for noise reductions, eye masks. For people that work in the office, what we do now, because I'm going a lot in the corporates these days and advocate for, including sleep into the conversations and the quality of sleep. And there is a model that we kind of copy from the Finnish, one of our partner in Finland. And what they do there, we go to the corporate to present the devices, and the corporate will acquire these devices, and then they will rent these devices to their own employees. When the employees will pass through their difficult periods, let's say they are a bit more stressed, they pass through a divorce or somebody died in their family, or eventually they run for a new promotion and they're a little bit extra stressed, so they can rent this material without acquiring them if this would cost, it will not be within their budgets. Now, some people, they have this remote office anxiety. I was working remotely even before COVID. So for me, remote is the best options, but I know that people, they prefer to be surrounded by people. Now, if you're at home, then you can have these vagus nerve stimulators that you can install in your body, and while you're sitting in the office and working, you're still stimulating your largest nerve, which is the vagus nerve stimulator. Now, for morning rituals, I truly recommend some smart alarms. Look for the ice baths or try a cold showers like I did. Expose yourself to the sun early morning. During the daytime, in case you have this problem of regulating and finding your right interval or the right window to sleep, there are a lot of light therapy devices or massages that can help you establish your rhythm there. And in the nights, well, blinders, like in my case, even if today I'm sleeping completely drug free, as I said, I'm still carrying my blinders around with me. Cool bed sheets. So the room temperature is quite important in order to keep you asleep. Humidifiers and lamps. And now, if you're still loving the human connections, you're still open to explore things with a specialist, we created for that Dreamwell program. And for that, we have 3 different solutions depending where you're kind of currently situated with your sleep deprivation. The first solution will be the deep relaxation, and there we work with massages therapists, with the spa entrance there, and with acupuncture. But let's say this was you passed the light form of being sleep deprived, and you try all kind of solutions, and you're open to explore what would be the root cause of, or what would be your triggers for the situation that you are facing there. And for that, we have the Mind and Body Reconnect a package where we work with CBTI specialists here, with a life coach, with a Theta Healing Yoga. Now, eventually you're just before the burnout, or eventually you try to overcome and to come out of that situation. Here we have the burnout and sleep optimization specialists, which are burnout coaches. We work with the somnologists and we do the sleep studies for you. Now, I would like to, as I said, introduce you to few of the devices that are top notch in the industry at these days, innovations that I could not access back then when I was running to that um, messy situation that I was facing myself. Vagus nerve stimulator. So this is the TVNS is the only one medical device approved vagus nerve stimulator here in Europe. Now, all the other vagus nerve stimulators, and there are plenty of them today on the market, they are considered as wellness. Why? Because they didn't pass through all the validations through the clinical studies. But this one passed all the clinical studies for all these conditions, from anxiety, sleep disorder, epilepsy, and many others as mentioned in here. Now, if that's not affordable, the other ones, I think they have this exactly, I would say they have exactly, I'm using the wellness devices, by the way, for my vagus stimulations. But all the other ones, they have exactly the same effect, just they didn't pass through all the admin work and paperwork to become to have that status of medical device. And one is Sensate, which is stimulating your vagus nerve here on the chest, and TVNS will stimulate yourself here on the ear. So different companies, they choose to catch that vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve that travels to your body and is responsible for self-regulations in different places. So this one on the chest, the other one on the ear, and this one's to the pulse. They do exactly the same, but just in different places. They try to catch the nerve. Now, I'm speaking to you about smart mattresses and the ones that you can travel with. This is it, Harmonia. You can install it under your mattresses and you can travel with it. We work a lot with athletes, and it's used by athletes because these guys, they have to change time zones around the globe when they travel, and they need to be at the peak of their performance. They cannot afford to be sleep deprived. And this mount, we have also a special offer that each consumer that is buying a Harmonia will get also the free Aura ring, which is one of the top rings for measuring the sleep overnight. Exactly the same technology like low frequency vibration that we have in Harmonia, we have in a professional chair like this, and the offer with Aura ring stays there as well. The chest long exactly the same, and exactly the same frequency, low frequency vibration we have in a cube like this. Now, Neurovisor is a light sound wellness device. I was very skeptical before using it because I said I already have trouble with any slight light. How can this device could put me eventually in sleep? All these lights that I have on my face. I truly recommend to go for it if you have these problems of regulating your circadian rhythm. There is a lot of research around this, and I became a big fan of it. Now, in terms of biometrics monitors, today are much more available, not only these watches and eventually the rings that you can use at night, but you can also have these smart EEGs that you can use during the daytime and to assess what kind of triggers will, affect your night sleep. And this is a kind of a band that you use it on around your head, and usually is used by coaches. I'm not sure if anybody in here is having a practice around that. Sometimes if you're a coach and you have some picky clients, let's say, that says, oh, your session doesn't make anything to me, well, you can assess during the session what is exactly happening in your client's mind. And exactly the same technology we have in these headsets with a smart EEG as well. We are all sitting all day long in these long calls, right? So why not to use that with a double functionality, in a sense that we can acquire real-time data of what's happening in our brain, and we can read that data also in a user-friendly mode, in a user-friendly manner. And now, as speaking at the beginning, we assess your inflammation. So this is the balance test that we use, and it's a home-based dry blood test. So you're not dependent on a doctor's prescription. We send you at home, and we measure 11 biomarkers that actually every human being should be aware of them. And we offer personalized test-based nutrition that I'm gonna walk you in a moment. So we try to kind of empower you back, to stop outsourcing your medical act or be fully dependent on passing through the doctors for everything. Today we have these options that we can also assess the values of our bodies either from smart ETGs, biometrics, but also in terms of a blood work. Now, in terms of prevention, we look at cellular health, and we know that inflammation is the root cause of so many other conditions. And in particular, we look at these two essential fatty acids that our body doesn't produce them, and we need to have them to take them from external sources. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with the two concepts. Myself, I took omega-3, for instance, for 10 years without even knowing if it's having any effect in my body. And yet, when I did this test at home, I was pretty shocked. Why? Well, for those of you that are not familiar with that concept, let's go first. So omega-6 is red meat, processed food, dairy, and increase inflammation. While on the other side, the fish, nuts, and good stuff reduce inflammation in omega-3. Now, they are both necessary in our body, but into the right ratio. And the science tells us that anything that's below 3:1, 3 omega-6 for 1 omega-3, we are still into the safe zone. However, statistics shows us that in Europe, we are all in average around 15:1, and in US, we are in average at 40:1. Now, these are pretty red numbers and pretty scary, but what that means actually for our body? Well, it turns out when these two go so off balance, what's triggering at the body level, at the cell level, it's triggering a chronic inflammation. And as a consequence of that, what's happening, the membrane of the cells gets hardened. And the whole role of that membrane is to allow nutrition to enter in and to allow waste to get released. Now, if that membrane of your cells is restricted in function, it's like we would try to pour waters to the covers of a book. Eventually it will sink, but it's not proper absorption. So basically, every food that we put in our body is not properly absorbed. That explains also why I was taking so many supplementations in the past and I was not even aware, I was not even questioning if somebody should test me for that. Now, apart from the balance test, which I was just mentioning before, we developed in total 4 tests. We have the other one for vitamin D and for diabetes. You can take it from home. But I want to speak a little bit about the very special test for the gut health, which is the first one in humankind, which looks exactly the same. You take it at home. That doesn't require any stool sample. So exactly out of the 2 drops of your finger, drops of blood out of your finger prick, we tell you what's happening actually in your gut. Now, we have the largest cellular database currently in the world, and we did over 1.7 million tests worldwide. And what data shows us is absolutely impressive. I was not aware as well. Well, 95% of Europeans at least, here we are a little bit better compared to the rest of the world, but still 95% of Europeans, they don't pass such a test. Right, so and maybe here because the food and everything in Europe, it's a little bit better compared to the rest of the world because we have these regulations, but still we are not in the right place. While on the global stage, 97% of population, they don't pass such a test. Now we identify a global problem, but what is the solution? So there we have the balanced soil, which is 60% fish oil and 40% olive oil. And on that combination exists the potent and the polyphenols, which are the most potent antioxidant in nature, ensures that the product stays long enough in the body to reach the cells level. So now what we will do, we'll test you, we'll put you on a product for 120 days, and we'll test you second time 120 days later. So we will show you that whatever you're consuming is actually doing what you expect to do in your body. So you eliminate that guesswork. Now, what we do, as I said, we take you from wherever you are and we put you back in balance in the first place within 120 days. Why is 120 days important? Because that's the timeline for your blood cells to completely renew. There is no point to test you before that term. I think Valbona is smiling at me because I'm passing the timing, right? Few words about Viva, which is pure saffron, and it's the precursor, the natural precursor of serotonin, and which is the hormone for mood and self-regulations there. I used to import from different countries saffron where it was cheaper because here in Belgium it's pretty expensive. But Viva, it's a neurotropic. It's kind of a spa for the mind. If you take it during the days, helps you to focus, to concentrate. to run the show, while if you take it at night, helps you with sleep. Now, this is the lab where we send the blood work that you are shipping from the test. It's based in Oslo, it's completely independent, it's called Vitas Analytical, and is one of the most prestigious dry blood tests in the world, in the sense that all these universities, they do the blood work with them. Now, if all of this kind of feel like heavy or expensive or not affordable for yourself, and eventually you're not in that extreme situation as I was at some point, there are some free trips that you can leave this call today. Learn about sleep restrictions. In a sense, just apply this 15 minutes. If you're more than 15 minutes awake in a bed, please go find another room or another bed before you feel again sleepy, and use the bed just for a number of things, among others, sleep, sickness, or sex. So your body is associating that when you enter in that room, nothing else should happen there. Now, if you wake up in the middle of the night as well, this sometimes works for me. Why? Breathing exercise in 4 times inhaling, 4 times holding, and 6 times exhaling. That's a natural way, totally free, to stimulate your vagus nerve, right? So if you don't buy a device, you're not into the devices yet, just apply that. That will stimulate naturally your vagus nerve. Or apply this kind of meditations that Vipassana back in India, where they were teaching me to screen your body with to scan your body with your, feeling your sensations there. Or walk in your mind, find a nice beach, find a nice pleasant place around whatever, from your memories, or even, if AI generated a nice image, imagine yourself walking on a beach or on that road. Now, our call to action is to sleep like your life depends on it, because it really does. And since you made it up to this stage in our call here, we want to make it, worth it for yourself. So that's why we prepared this 10% off promo code for anyone here in the call tonight by using the Master Sleep code at the end of checkout moments. With that being said, we hope to, stay in touch. This is just an opening call to kind of be a source of inspirations, but would be grateful to have a one-to-one conversations later stage, or to keep around our fire around our social media and see what is coming up next. And with that being said, I think I need to pass the floor to Valbona for her wonderful functional presentation.